Our last Pondering Anew in this block, Tom Natalini. Are you there? You are. Mission developer and pastor extraordinaire Tom Natalini, who's part of our first call cadre. Were you the last of Davenport's ordinations? Yeah, I think so. He is now mission developing a community called Mindfulness Church, which is a new and revolutionary way that we are gathering with people. So I'm going to invite you forward to talk now a little bit about Mindfulness Church.
Feels a little bit like show and tell, you know. So good afternoon, everybody. I'm Tom Natalini, as you heard, pastor of St. David's Lutheran Church in Northeast Philadelphia and mission developer of Mindfulness Church. And apropos of the name, I would like to invite you all to practice mindfulness of breathing with me for a couple minutes here. Let's just do 2 minutes. I don't think we can bear the silence that long. And the practice I share, though, is simple. Simply distinguish between your in-breath and your out-breath. Sitting with a straight back and relaxed shoulders does facilitate the practice of discerning whether we are breathing in or breathing out, but sit in whatever way is comfortable for you. So I'll begin, that's why I have this bell here. I will begin with 3 sounds of the bell and then close with 3 sounds as well. So let us begin. Thank you. So when I began to consider how this mission development has been pondering anew, I looked immediately to the language. Pondering comes from the Latin for weighing and means something along the lines of appraising or judging the worth of something. Of course, given the context of the word in the classic hymn, I understand that the word implies something more like imagining or envisioning. But I recognize that pondering implies thinking or cognizing in some way. And even when I hear the word ponder, I kind of imagine Rodin's The Thinker statue bent over, with a hand clenched under the chin. In a book about Zen written by Uchiyama Roshi called Opening the Hand of Thought, he actually has a side-by-side illustration of the thinker on the one side and a person in meditation posture on the other. I think what distinguishes Mindfulness Church as a mission development is that we begin by recognizing the ruminating nature of the culture we live in. Not only are we oversaturated by information in general, but we are educated formally and informally, in questioning everything. The effect of this endless questioning is evident in what Slavoj Žižek refers to as ironic distance, or the act of laughing at the follies of belief and ideology, recognizing their inconsistencies and contradictions, seemingly distancing ourselves from the very systems that nonetheless shape one's reality, and imagining oneself to be post-ideological, above or outside belief itself. In short, the consequence is cynicism. Mindfulness Plus Church is an attempt to meet people where they are at, in their cynicism, in their mocking and ironic distance, recognizing that given our societal condition, it is completely understandable why people are skeptical of just about everything and everything, and why, therefore, there is more often than not extreme hesitancy to commit to one spiritual path or another, or to commit at all, honestly. As evident, for example, in the increasing growth of those who religiously identify as non-affiliated. People neither know what to believe nor whom to believe. So they don't join, they don't commit, but exercise a left foot in, left foot out mentality. The Netflix documentary, Join or Die, outlines this half-century long, if not longer, story of America's civic unraveling in the citizenry's unwillingness to join anything, pondering the question, why are people bowling alone instead of joining bowling leagues? Robert Putnam's age-old question that seems to only grow in urgency as the years go by. Well, we might be relatively indifferent to the plight of bowling leagues, but realistically, we're all in the same boat. Having your child baptized and then never coming to worship ever after is our version of the bowling alone phenomena. Some have referred to these folks as cultural Christians, and that may be true, but I think there's more to it. As Žižek writes in The Puppet and the Dwarf, perhaps that is where the stake of today's reference to culture, of culture emerging as the central life world category. When it comes to religion, for example, we no longer really believe today. We just follow some religious rituals and mores as part of respect for the lifestyle of the community to which we belong. I don't really believe in it, it's just a part of my culture, effectively seems to be the predominant mode of the disavowed and displaced belief characteristic of our times. Culture, as distinguished from real religion, is in its very core the name for the field of disowned and impersonal beliefs. And here's the kicker. Culture is the name for all those things we practice without really believing in them, without taking them seriously. Problem is that being a disciple of Jesus requires serious commitment. It requires, in fact, total subjective commitment. But given the culture-wide skepticism about knowledge, especially religious knowledge, there is a fundamental friction for this kind of taking serious. The skepticism about knowledge makes faith seem at best a private preference or yet another lifestyle choice, but never a universal truth claim. As a result, people meditate alone. They pray in private. They're spiritual, but not religious. So far, in responding to this reality, Mindfulness Plus Church offers just one weekly gathering, which involves 3 distinct aspects: a spiritual journey conversation, mindfulness practice, and a blessing. For the conversation, I usually craft questions connecting Sunday's gospel reading with a reflection on faith and spiritual practice. Then we practice mindfulness of breathing, and finally close with a passage from the Bible that connects with the day's themes. I find that mindfulness practice, or meditation, is something that a lot of people are privately familiar with, may have tried, may want to do more often, but do not necessarily do regularly or in a community. It's kind of like when people are like, yeah, I should exercise more, but I don't have the time for it. It's the same kind of thing. Mindfulness Plus Church is an invitation to meditate together and to connect that practice to the spiritual path of living out the gospel of Jesus. It is an invitation to recognize both the experiential benefits of consistent practice, but also, and I would say more importantly, how the practice does make claims about knowledge and truth. Even if many would like to just use it as another tool in their toolbox, valueless, without a history, without a culture, contextless tool for personal utility. To be sure, though, today there are many cultural Christians practicing mindfulness and meditation in the same pragmatic way that they attend or do not attend worship and participate in church life and community. Mindfulness Plus Church, then, in response, is a community to reflect upon and collectively recognize how both mindfulness and church are more than pragmatic means to fulfilling ends. They are paths of knowledge with moral centers. They are about personal, but therefore also collective spiritual moral growth. They also both recognize that without a firm footing, without stable grounding, trust in something, that growth is impossible. So this experimental approach to responding to where people are at today would not be possible without the generous financial support of the ELCA, the Synod, and St. David's. Please feel free to ask me about the full details, but in short, 25% of financial support comes from the ELCA and SEPA, and 75% from St. David's. Alongside and together with this financial support has also come the willingness of these various parties to try something new. I like to describe this mission as a seed planting. The seed has been planted and is slowly showing forth a fragile little green shoot. St. David's was willing to provide some of the conditions to support its growth, and the ELC and SEPA still other conditions. But together they were willing to nurture the seed, not knowing when or if that would grow at all. So above all, I'm grateful and humbled by the faith of my community, SEPA, and the ELCA, for their willingness to act on something like Mindfulness Plus Church without a guarantee that anything at all would grow. That is faith in action. And as I pointed out here, it is something that seems increasingly less common in our world, driven by outcomes, measurables, data, and of course, the bottom line. In working together with St. David's, my approach has been to extend an open invitation without expecting that anyone will show, without counting on, just because they're supporting the mission development, that they will be willing to participate. It's the same approach that I have with Mindfulness Plus Church in general. It's an open invitation, something like an open letter, written by those who attend every Monday evening. For Mindfulness Plus Church is what happens when you add mindfulness and church together. The result cannot be predetermined. It's organic, ever-changing, and open to possibility. It's life, in other words. The approach of mindfulness practice is to recognize what is distinguishable from what is separable. And we are inseparable from this mist-like, elusive life. So whereas we as moderns would like to imagine ourselves a la Descartes as brains running separable from machine-like bodies, as mind over and separated from matter types, as rational predictors able to consider every possibility to ensure maximum profitability, mindfulness practice can show us that we are inseparable from the wily, ever-flowing, blowing where it chooses breath that cannot be rationalized, tamed, or determined by us, that we are inseparable from each other, our history, and this world. And that if we wish, therefore, for success, then we ought to get with the program, written by the Spirit, always pondering anew what she would have us do. Thank you, and come gather with us sometime if you can.